Hello and welcome everybody. In this somewhat bonus video, I'm going to go over every single mod that I'm using in this City Skyline series. This is of course the Altengrad city. The game's content manager tells me I have 67 mods enabled for it, so I will briefly mention every single one of them and tell you the main point why I'm using those particular mods, how they enable me to do what I do. This is not going to be a tutorial. There won't be much explanation on how the mods work, but if you are interested in them, you can easily check their Steam Workshop pages to determine if they are what you look for and also read how to use them. This is probably going to be a bit longer video because of the number of mods, but hopefully not too much. I will also show you the settings for mods that have settings. This video was made after the campus patch, so all the mods listed here are working, at least for me. Make sure to always read the mod descriptions to see incompatibilities and important notes. Also, some mods change, some new mods appear from time to time. This list is complete when the video was made, of course. If there are any changes, I will post it in the comments below this video. The mods are sorted alphabetically and include even the Vanilla's game modifications. Let's start. 81 tiles, very simple mod to unlock the entire City Skylines map for building. Advanced toolbar allows me to expand the regular toolbar so it has 3 rows instead of 1, necessary when having a lot of assets to browse through. There are alternatives to this mod, but I still use this one. Advanced vehicle options, a mod that allows me to control which vehicles are spawned on the map. In Altengrad especially it is an essential mod, so I can ban all the modern vehicles and only have the old ones. Also allows me to set acceleration and braking for trains to make them more realistic. The original mod is not maintained anymore. You want to use the version maintained by Tim, a workshop creator. Camera positions utility, mod to unlock better camera movement so it can clip into buildings, it's not going up and down when moving the camera over structures and other objects, and allows much better zoom controls, and so on. Cinematic camera extended, mod that makes it possible to record the cinematic shots. I simply program a path the camera is going to follow while I'm recording it. Clouds and fog toggler, exactly what the name says, removes the fog, border fog as well, and clouds to make the city more clear when zoomed out more. Configure outside connections limits. Haven't used this mod yet, to be honest, but I hope it will allow me to configure, for example, tourist traffic into the city, and when I build some main roads outside of the city, the traffic that just goes through the map can be limited by this as well. CSL show more limits, mod that shows the number of different kinds of objects you already placed and what the game's hard limits are. Not super needed in Altengrad, but I do want to check if I'm running out of limits from time to time, as the game won't allow you to build anymore. Daylight Classic, a graphics mod, a lot of people use it, you kind of need to try it yourself if it's something you want. Decal Prop Fix, mod required by certain decals to make them appear correctly. Dynamic resolution, simple mod that allows you to control the game's resolution, necessary mod for good cinematic shots. I use the 200% settings almost all the time. Extra landscaping tools, simply a better landscaping tools than the vanilla ones. I mostly have it because of the elevation display. When picking elevation with the level terrain tool, it shows the elevation, very useful for realistic road and railroad construction. Extra train station tracks, mod required by certain railroad stations from the workshop. Find it, a mod to easily find any kind of asset you have in the game. From one toolbar, it allows me to find buildings, trees, props, and also networks and everything else. And you can even search for those things if you know their names or creators. Fine Road Anarchy, mod that disables the vanilla restrictions for not only road construction but also placement of buildings and so on. Fine Road Tool, very handy mod for network construction. I use it mostly for the ability to switch already placed networks between the ground, elevated bridge or tunnel variations without destroying them. It also has the straight slope feature, but I use the move it features instead these days. Forest Brush, mod for painting forests. It allows me to create custom brushes with more than just one tree type for more variety. Garbage Bin Controller, a mod I had to use in this city as I didn't find any historical garbage trucks, so there are no garbage collection services in the city and buildings just show the garbage bins in front of them. This mod simply makes them invisible, so kind of a graphics mod. Improved public transport too. This mod got somewhat implemented into the vanilla game already, but I still use it anyway. It shows more information about the public transport lines, but I mostly use it to place specific vehicles onto the line, which was added in the campus patch, but you can also put different vehicles on the line, but in specific order. For example, I can have 2 buses on a line, and then 1 longer articulated bus, every 3 buses, for example. So this mod still has its use for me. Loading screen mod that simply makes it possible to load the game with many assets, as it decreases the memory usage and makes the loading faster. It also allows you to not load certain vanilla assets, which is really needed in this city, as I don't load vanilla streetlights, for example, or some tram stop props and so on. Move It, one of the most popular mods out there, simply allows the manipulation of already placed objects, also has features to align heights between objects or smooth the network slopes and so on. Network extensions too, mod that is kind of a remnant from times when we didn't have the road editor and the only way to bring new networks into the game was through a mod. But this mod is still useful today as it brings really interesting new roads, especially the pedestrian roads. Network tiling, mod required by certain networks like retaining walls and so on, so they display properly. No abandonment. It disables buildings abandonment, obviously, when the building has some problems. Kind of a cheat if you are actually playing the game, which I'm not really, because I'm carefully placing each building manually. I don't want them to disappear then. No fires. Same thing, don't want any carefully placed buildings to burn down. No problem notifications. Again, mod to disable some gameplay features of the core game. It doesn't really disable them, it just makes the notifications go away, so dead people still won't get picked up from buildings, but residents no longer mind, for example. Again, kind of a cheat. A lot of people hate this mod. I use it because I don't really play the game, but rather use it to simply create a city so it looks like I want it to, without the game's restrictions. No radioactive desert and more. Pretty much a graphics mod, disables mainly the weird ground texture when it's polluted around industrial buildings. No seagulls. Simply remove seagulls from the game. Not super needed in my current series, but back in Rockdale I was placing a ton of parking lots, which were technically parks, so they attracted huge amounts of those screeching, flying rats, so I had to get rid of them. Painter, mod that allows the color change for certain buildings. Some buildings have specific surfaces set to be repaintable. Some buildings can be repainted as a whole only, which is sometimes more useful to me because I can match tones between buildings made by different authors. Buildings in the game are usually very bright. Pause on load. Very handy utility mod. Pauses the game when it loads, so I can start loading the game and then do something else like watch YouTube videos or go AFK, and when it loads, it just waits for me to unpause it. Plop the Growables, mod that is pretty much an extension to the Find It mod. It adds another tab to the Find It mod toolbar, the Growables. Now, growables are buildings in the game that are only possible to obtain when they grow on their own in the zoned areas. Otherwise, you cannot place them manually. With this mod, you can, but beware, because this mod pretty much breaks the zoning gameplay, so using this mod is only for people who want to place buildings manually, like I do. Ploppable Asphalt Plus brings a pack of surfaces as props. The main point of these surfaces is that they have the same texture as your map theme, even when used with the theme mixer. I mostly use the pavement and grass textures. Ploppable Reco, mod that is kind of old. When people first started creating building assets for the game, big buildings, bigger than the standard 4x4 cells in the game, they were only unique buildings, tourist attractions, nothing more. This mod allows you to assign purpose to these buildings, either residential, industrial, commercial, or office. That's what Reco stands for. Most Reco buildings in the workshop already have settings for this mod, so if you download some Reco residential building, it is actually a placeable or ploppable residential building as well in the game. Pollution Solution, mod I was kind of forced to use. It removes the ground pollution completely. Like I said before, it didn't find historical garbage trucks, so the garbage was piling up, which made the ground polluted and people really sick, which made the ambulances spawn in huge numbers. That looked weird, so I got this mod. Post-Process FX. Graphics mod, mostly used for adding ambient occlusion. Some people use it on Macs all the time, some people hate this mod completely. I'm somewhere in the middle, settings shown here. Precision Engineering, mod somewhat implemented into the game already, but the original mod is much better than that addition, so I still use it. It displays angles between networks, they are lengths, and has the protractor feature as well for better curves. Prefab Hook, mod required by other mods, not sure if I need it still, but here it is. Procedural Objects, a huge mod, impossible to quickly talk about it, but just to briefly introduce it, this mod allows me to convert many types of objects, so buildings, props, decals, into the so-called procedural objects. This means I can then manipulate them as if they were 3D models right from the game. If you follow any of my series, you know how it works, what I do with it. Incredibly useful, somewhat difficult to get into, but unlocks a whole new world of possibilities in this 3D editor, game. Prop Entry Anarchy, mod that unlocks the placement of props entries everywhere, so into buildings, networks, everything. Prop It Up, mod I use to get rid of props entries from buildings, especially useful in this series to remove some modern ads from buildings, parking lots, and so on. Also useful for removing vanilla trees from buildings or the entire map. Not networks, unfortunately, you have to use some different mods for that. Prop Line Tool, handy mod to place decals, props and trees in very neat lines or curves, as if they were roads. Prop Precision, somewhat an add-on to the Prop Line tool mentioned before, for much more precise positioning of said objects. Prop Snapping, mod that practically unlocks the vertical adjustment of props, so you can for example place them on top of buildings, roads and such. Also with this mod, props can be moved up and down with the Move It mod. Key Anarchy, unlocks the placement of keys everywhere, not just near bodies of water. Railway Replacer, huge mod, it brings much more detailed and nicer looking railroads into the game. The mod allows you to replace the station tracks, globally switch some railway props and so on. Realistic Walking Speed does exactly that, makes citizens walk slower, which looks more realistic. Relight, graphics mod, I used for many different things, I just use the color corrections that come with it. Remove Need for Pipes, another self-explanatory mod, removes water pipes from the city. Kind of a cheat again, but I started using this mod when I realized that pipes also count towards the network hard limits in the game, which severely limited my ability to finish the first project I did, the Rockdale City, which was huge in the end, and I was running into those limits. Remove Road Props. Yeah, removes random road props so I can have either cleaner streets or put my own props on them. Remove Street Arrows. Same thing, but with arrows. Speed Slider. Mod that slows down the entire simulation of the game. I use it because it also slows down the camera movement, so when I speed them up 4 times in editing, the movement looks smoother in the time lapses, makes it easier to watch. I use 40% speed, lower is already too slow for me. Surface Painter allows painting the basic textures on the ground, useful mostly on larger surfaces or as some fills between buildings and so on. I mostly use the Pavement. Theme Mixer allows me to customize the textures in the game to mix them from different map themes. Settings for this mod are in the video description for this series. Traffic Manager President Edition, another very popular mod, allows more micromanagement for intersections and all kinds of aspects of traffic. I mostly use it these days to ban parking, ban certain vehicles from entering some streets, and setting either priority signs or custom traffic lights. So in the end, I'm pretty much using all the features. Topographic Lines Toggle switches the topographic lines on or off, even when not in the terrain tool view, useful for evaluating the terrain features of the map for building roads or especially railroads. Tram Station Track, mod required by some tram assets. Transparency Lodz Fix, graphics mod, makes the faraway model for glass appear better. Transparent Selectors makes the blue or green outline of objects transparent, so you can see through it, and it allows you to better align stuff next to each other. Tree Lodz Fix makes the faraway models of trees look better. Tree Movement Control. 2 purposes for this one: enables the random tree rotation, which randomly rotates a tree before you place it, so every tree is looking differently, good for more natural looking forests or alleys, and also controls the movement of trees in the wind. Ultimate Eye Candy graphics mod. I mostly use it to control the position of the sun and to save and load different color correction settings between my series. Also controls the time of the day. Ultimate Level of Detail replaced the LUT Toggler mod, allows you to switch on the detailed models for objects even when viewed from greater distances, makes for better cinematic shots, but it decreases performance a lot. Unlimited Money. Vanilla Game Edition, like I said before, I'm not really playing the game, just creating stuff I like, so no point in being limited by the game's budget. Unlimited Outside Connections, mod that allows you to place as many outside connections as you want. Unlimited Trees mod simply raises the limits for the number of trees you can place on the map. Be careful that this mod isn't incompatible with Tree Snapping mod that I use in the different series, but not this one. Unlock All, another vanilla modification, basically disables the milestone progression. Vehicle Effects, mod that I again haven't used yet in the game, but it allows historical steam trains to puff smoke, among other things. Citizen Lifecycle Rebalance, gameplay mod, makes citizens not die all at one age, but more realistically distributes age of death, practically removes death waves from the game. Also, you can control the willingness of citizens to use cars or public transport. Alright, that was all. Hopefully all of the mods I'm using. Like I said, it was just a brief overview of these mods with the main motivation why I'm using them. I hope you liked this list and that this video was somewhat helpful to you. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, then you can put a thumbs up underneath it, share it, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. I'll see you with some next videos. Take care. Goodbye.